Last night in Nashville, Rick Beato gave a presentation on AI in the music industry, and I'm here to review whether it was worth the $50 I spent to hear Rick speak. Now, if you're not familiar with Rick Beato, well, you've probably been living under a rock. Rick Beato has over 5 million viewers on YouTube, and he's been known to be a guy that maybe later in life started his YouTube channel and was a really big influencer, talking about the music industry, music production, breaking down how songs are made, what makes them cool. Very eloquent. He's great at telling stories and just talking about the direction of the music industry. So many musicians follow him. I think his YouTube channel, one thing I really enjoy about it is that it has value. It gives people information, it educates them, and it's not this quick 15-second sound bites as we see on most of the internet. So I followed Rick Beato casually. I don't watch every episode, but every now and again I'll tune into his channel, and he does a great job. So I was curious to see what he had to say when he came to Nashville, because I've been really interested in AI, and I've been using it since it has came out, and I've been playing with it as a very exciting new tool and technology in both my regular life and my artistic, musical, and creative life. And Rick has been speaking out a lot about AI lately. He's gained some notoriety. Specifically for AI, I think it's almost transcendental, where non-musicians are beginning to become familiar with Rick Beato and how he speaks about AI and its effects. So I was curious what he had to say. So for the first half hour or so of this speech in Nashville, Rick kind of gave an introduction of who he was, his journey, and how he got into YouTube. And we quickly kind of transitioned into AI and his thoughts on AI. And he showed us a few examples. He was using a platform called Suno. He showed us how he created some songs in Suno. And he also showed us how he was creating lyrics. Now, you can create lyrics in Suno, but he was prompting something called Claude. Claude's another large language model similar to ChatGPT. And he was using another large language model to kind of create the lyrics. And then he would import those lyrics into Suno, which is a music AI platform. And he would say, make a song about this and this and that. Here are the lyrics. It's by this artist. And he gives a description kind of the artist. And within 90 seconds, you have two versions of a song which are completely different but maintain those lyrics. For most people there, it was kind of shocking and stunning. I think most ordinary people think that it's shocking and stunning. Now for me, I've been doing that for well over a year, probably 2 years now, which doesn't seem like a long time, but in terms of technology and in terms of AI, that's a lifetime. And AI is constantly evolving and is rapidly evolving. From the 2 years I've been using it, it has gone from like 1 to level 1000, and we are rapidly accelerating. And what Rick was doing, he was using newer technologies. He was using newer versions of Suno, newer versions of Claude, but my criticism was that he was using it in a way that is fairly rudimentary. So it's like if you're a guitar player and you're playing like same old scale or playing the same old 1, 4, 5. And you want to advance your artistry and your skills, so you pick up a new guitar that sounds a little bit better and is able to do a little bit more, has more of a range, it's more versatile. However, you're still using the same techniques. You know, your sound might change a little bit, but if you're still approaching an instrument in a fairly rudimentary level, you're still going to get rudimentary results. And that's kind of what I deduced from this short presentation with Rick. Now, Rick might be doing a little bit more prompting. I don't know. I'm really just giving you my instant reaction to what I saw. And what I saw was Rick copying and pasting a prompt into a large language model, and then copying and pasting another prompt into a music creation platform. And he's basically what we call is doing one shot. He says, give me this. And when he gets something back that is not exactly what he wants or what he's thinking, or like kind of criticizes some things about it, you know, I can understand that. But that's like going to a restaurant and saying, I would like some food, please bring it out. And then the food comes out and you're like, it's a little bit salty for this style of food. I'm not sure if I agree with it. And while that criticism can be valid, what have you given the waiter Or the chef, the person preparing your food, you've given them no instructions. So I like to think about AI, whether I'm doing music or something else, I like to think about it as a collaborator. I like to think about it as a fellow employee, maybe even as an intern, maybe someone I'm working with. I need to give them all the information about what I'm thinking. I need to give them feedback. So if I say I'm thinking something along the lines of this and they suggest something, I'm like, yes or no. It's really a dialogue, and it's very much like an instrument. You have to develop your language and your skills on it. So let me use another guitar example. If I pick up a guitar and after one day I'm playing it and I'm like, I don't sound like Jimi Hendrix. This instrument is no good. It's not really the instrument. It's the person. It's their understanding of it. And if you don't really understand an instrument, you're not going to be able to get as much out of it. Now, you might get some cool results out of it by using it in a different way. You're not going to have the full control that you want. And that's what I saw Rick doing with the music he was making. There was very little prompting. Whenever I'm using AI to do a task or a project, I usually spend at least 5 or 6 back and forths with whatever form of AI I'm using. I'm giving them information. I'm giving it context. I'm massaging the results to try to build a system so it can understand what I'm doing, what I'm trying to achieve. And that's my first tip, is if you're using AI, any form, think about it like a person. Think about it as an interaction, because really that's what it is. You have to give it context. You have to give it instructions on what you want to do. Now, my second major point is, I think for Rick, but also the way all of us are collectively viewing AI. And AI, which stands for artificial intelligence, I think it's becoming a fairly boilerplate term. Everyone uses it in different ways, kind of like people use Latin music or electronic music. Kind of gives you an idea of what's going on, but not the full picture. Now, one thing I see a lot of people using AI for is help with creative tasks. And I think that's great. But I think AI, if you're outsourcing it for doing something artistic, we have to really think about what art is. And I know that's kind of heady for a conversation like this. But for me, art, music, whether I'm writing, whether I'm performing, it's all about me expressing myself. Expressing myself in the most unique way I possibly can, and the conditions of that day. There's going to be all these variables that influence the way I play music. For example, maybe I didn't sleep enough, or maybe I slept too much, maybe I'm hungry, and I'm particularly feeling a song in a certain way, at a certain tempo, or a certain weight behind it, and that's going to introduce some imperfections. Like I might speed a little bit, my dynamics might be a little bit different. There might be a variance in that. And for me, that's where the beauty comes in, because art is all about expressing the human condition. And the human condition, just basically our lives, are a messy, complex experience. And we all feel them and filter them in a certain way. And it's kind of like our own internal algorithms, our own filters react in their own ways. And that's going to be very unique to us. It's going to blend all of our experiences that nobody else has. So why would I try to outsource that to a machine that has not experienced anything that I have, cannot feel what I have, does not have the reactions, does not have the emotions, does not have the flaws that I have? Because at its core, I think art is really a way of celebrating flaws. It's celebrating the way we process life. It's our reaction to it, our interpretation of it. And the machine's not going to do that. It might be able to synthesize all these different experiences you have and kind of create a stew, but that maybe is not the stew that you want. And that's how I view AI. And I would encourage people to think about it in a different way. It can present to you all these different data points and give you something to work with. And how I like to use AI, mainly for me to help organize that information. And then I'm seeing all these pieces and I decide, how do I want to present these pieces? How do I want to pull them together? I really think that's what art is about. You're pulling puzzle pieces from your life and you're creating this unique, weird puzzle that may not look like it's anything, but it comes out as this kind of, oh, this is my view of life. This is my third point about AI. AI is the average, especially when it comes to music. It's going to take the average of all the sums, bring them down, and distill it into a certain level. And so it's not going to generate anything new. It's just variations on different ideas, different concepts that have already been done. So many of our concepts on music that we hear on the radio, it's usually between 3 to 4 minutes. Almost all of them. Usually in a format, pop, country, rap, jazz. So we have all these different categorizations online. And within each of those categorizations, there are different hallmarks and benchmarks for different eras and different genres. And basically, a large language model is going to find all these different varieties and find like benchmarks of them and say, what style do you want? Do you want something in like 70s rock style? And it's going to distill all these different variables from that era and boil it down into something that this is the average of what you're saying. Now, of course, you could massage this a touch and make it sound more unique and more individual. But again, you are just kind of gathering all these pieces that a machine is coming up with, and you're not really reacting to anything. You're not sharing. You're not expressing. You're just basically painting by numbers. And can that be cool? Absolutely. It's just a different way of doing things. And it's not the way I like to write songs, because I like to write songs about my experience as a human being. I like to react as me. I like to feel my feelings. Do they make sense? No, and that's why they're mine. And sometimes I put that into my music, and that's kind of like that special X factor. But I also use AI for my songwriting. For example, one thing I've been doing lately, I always have these ideas for lyrics, these concepts, a different way of creating a song, a different format. And so I'm documenting lyric ideas, groove ideas, melody ideas, harmony ideas, texture ideas. I'm basically creating this list of things and have like variables of all the things that I've created. And I'm working as a way where I can almost like pull a slot machine handle and have these random things that I've created just come together in one moment. And that's completely different. That's something we haven't done before. And that's something I'm interested in doing, because I'm using my own ideas and randomly generating versions of it. Or maybe I can take lyrics from when I was 20 and lyrics from when I was 30 and combine them. Now, is AI collaborating with me on this? Yes, but I'm giving it kind of ideas on what to do. I'm trying to be creative with it. I'm using it not as a replacement, but kind of as an enhancement for what I'm doing. But it's not replacing my creativity. My fourth point about AI is, yeah, it's great and efficient at doing things like pop music. What does that say about pop music? Does that say it's predictable, that it's formulaic, that we've kind of hit this kind of rut where everything sounds the same? Perhaps, but do we see AI right now composing movie scores? We probably will at some point, and they'll probably sound like all the existing movie scores out there. It's kind of giving you the same thing, only different. Kind of like movies are right now. There aren't a lot of original ideas. People are just doing the same thing in a different variation. Well, maybe it's time to really blow things up and try doing totally different versions of things. Maybe we'll start writing more 10-minute songs. Maybe more 30-second songs. I don't know. But I see things changing, see things evolving, and music is never going to be done the same way it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, even 5 years ago. I guarantee you 5 years from now, music is going to be wildly different. And we're kind of in the midst of this sea change. And I think that's what a lot of people are missing out on AI. They are afraid of it, or they are criticizing it. And there are certainly criticisms of AI. But AI is here to stay. And so you have to figure out how to use it. And that's one thing I really agreed with Rick upon with AI. He's like, the creative people, the people who are successful now are going to continue to be successful. They're just going to find ways to use AI with that. He says he knows that songwriters are doing that as well right now. And I totally believe him. And that brings up some really good questions. So if I'm a songwriter and I have a rhyming thesaurus, and I'm looking for a word that rhymes, and I'm like, and I pick up that thesaurus, is that me cheating? Does that make it any less musical? I would say the majority of people would say no. So what if I used a large language model? What if I said, ask ChatGPT or Gemini, what's a word that rhymes with ludicrous? Would that be cheating? Would that say it presents me with all these different options? Is that cheating? Is that using AI when I'm having AI play the role of a thesaurus? What if I want to like pare down the syllables in a verse? Like pare it down by 2 syllables so I can make the exact same syllables from the first verse as the second verse. If I used AI to do that, would that be cheating? I mean, these are honest questions. And this is kind of me using AI kind of as a tool to help make my organizational processes more efficient. But I'm not using it for my creative processes. And I think that's important. But my 5th point is, why can't we use AI for creativity? We've seen some AI bands like Velvet Sundown. That was a big AI kerfuffle. It was basically a band put on Spotify that was created through AI. Music, pictures, bio, everything. And some people fell for it, and it appeared on some Spotify playlists. Well, I knew it was AI, and I think most younger people can tell that it's AI because there's something about our ears we're like, yep, that's AI. And so a lot of times you can hear these digital artifacts. You can hear, ooh, something is not right. And the vocals are the hardest things to nail down because I can usually hear it when there's like big stretch for a syllable, big stretch for a range, a large interval jump. I usually can hear that AI. And it sounds a little bit like auto-tune, but it's different. It has these kind of weird artifacts. So if we remember the whole auto-tune brouhaha, that still goes on today where people are like, he's using auto-tune to correct some of the pitch indiscrepancies. That's not real music. And then people started using auto-tune kind of as an effect and making it a little bit different, making it sound totally wacky. Does using that auto-tune take away from the artistry? It's a good question. Like, I think when you're using it as effect, it's really cool. What if you're using it just to fix 1/2 of a syllable or something that was just like this much off? Is that cheating? Is that AI? Is that not real music? And these are all good questions to have. But like the artifacts, when you first hear it, you're like, ooh, that's kind of undesirable. It doesn't sound good. I really think in a couple years, you're going to start having effects plugins or effects pedals for vocals where you can get that artifacty sound to make it sound like AI while you're singing live. It's going to be a stylistic thing, and we're probably going to embellish it to make it sound really obvious and really cool and interesting. I think that would be awesome. I'm probably going to try to develop something like that right now. But the big question, was it worth the $50 I paid? He spoke for about an hour, and as he started getting into like showing the AI track stuff, I'm like, I was biting my tongue and my lip because I'm like, dude, you're doing it all wrong. You're approaching this totally backwards. It's like you're opening up Google Maps and you're like, hey, take me to mom's house. Google doesn't know where your mom lives. Boy, that's a joke somewhere. But I digress. And Rick, if you're listening, man, hit me up. I would love to chat with you because I think you're great at communicating. Your stories are great. You're so well spoken. You're so knowledgeable about so many different forms of music and the industry. And I love the curiosity. And I really love how he's developed long form. So we can actually sit down and have discussions. So I can make a video like this where I'm just talking off the cuff and I'm not pulling out my hair to put this in 8-second sound bites. But I think Rick is missing a lot of things and he's doing people a disservice by talking about this in such a broad spectrum. And I think that we really need to crack this thing open. Was it worth the money though? Yes, because it got me thinking that, man, if I see he's missing stuff, I should say something about it. And I was thinking about this as he was making his presentation. But then my whole brain processor like, man, I have to make a thumbnail. I have to do like SEO for this. I have to research keywords. I have to do all these things that have nothing to do with expression, nothing to do with creation and dialogue. And I've been feeling that way a lot lately with content, specifically YouTube, which is why I haven't posted as much lately. I want to focus more on creation and more on nourishing things instead of like, hey, this is what it's like when I play on Broadway. Because you know what, there was a time and place for that, but now I'm kind of shifting towards other directions. And I've really been inside my head about that and wanting to do it in a right way and present this big shift. But I don't think there's ever you can just flip a switch and do it. You just have to do it. And so watching Rick really inspired me. It really got my juices flowing and also gave me a gauge with the question and answer session. So he had a lot of question and answers. And people asked so many different questions. Some of them were good and some of them were typical Q&A questions. And it made me realize that I think a lot of us are missing the boat on AI and just approaching it in totally the wrong way. And I think it's going to change not just the music industry, but our day-to-day lives in a way that is far more significant than the way the internet changed our lives. So I'd highly suggest becoming aware of it. I'm not saying you have to embrace it, but research it. Know what's going on, because it changes rapidly. And if you like what I had to say about this, let me know in the comments. If you disagree, let me know in the comments. I really want to have a dialogue on this, and I'm curious if people think about this, or people agree or disagree. And I want to hear what you're doing with it. Now, I've written some original songs, I've written some lyrics, and I've also done an AI version of that, and I've done a completely original version. If you're curious about hearing that, let me know, because I have no idea what the audience wants. But right now, this is something I just wanted to say, and I also wanted to challenge myself to do a video where I didn't write out a script. I didn't curate it, I didn't manicure it, but I just spoke as I was. Because I feel that many of us are kind of losing that, especially with everything being so online and everything so, hey, we need you now, now, now. I'm kind of more interested in developing conversations and relationships with people and my art and my audience. So thank you so much for watching. If you found this helpful, please like and subscribe. Please forward this to Rick if you think he should take a listen. And Rick, if you're out there watching, just drop me a line. I would love to have you on the channel. Till then, remember, everyone, please be kind to yourself. Please be kind to your neighbors. And stay curious. Have a great day.